मानवा
नहीं हो गया।
बोलिए,
शुरू करें।
आप शुरू करिए।
उनका रिकॉर्ड में नहीं जा रहा।
Honorable Chairperson, sir, Honorable Chairperson, Madam, I've been allotted 18 minutes by my party, so I hope I'll be able to get the entire 18 minutes. I'm starting my stopwatch now. I rise today on behalf of the All India Trinamool Congress to dissect and oppose the Finance Bill 2526. Albert Einstein famously said that the hardest thing in the world is to understand income tax. Similarly, we find it very hard to understand why this government's taxation policy continues to widen the stark divide between the two Indias. A Kuber's India for the elite and the privileged, and another, Vishwakarma's India, for the masses who are bearing the brunt of this government's economic mismanagement. We have just finished the spectacle of the Mahakumbh, with faith drawing millions to the holy Sangam at Prayag. The government is patting itself on its back for organizing the grandest spectacle that humankind has ever seen. It is a small concern that the same UP government who was unable to count the number of deaths in the Kumbh stampedes and give the country a number was magically able to insist that precisely 63 crore people had bathed in the river. Now 63 crores is the entire adult population of India, which statistically implies that every single one of us sitting here has bathed in the Kumbh. I certainly haven't bathed in the Kumbh. Most of us sitting around me have not bathed in the Kumbh. But this mirage continues. This great mirage is continuing. Similarly, much like the great taxation mirage that this government has created. In December 24, in response to a parliamentary question, the Finance Ministry provided certain crucial statistics on taxpayers in this country. What did we learn? We learned that there are 8 crore people in this country who filed taxes. But out of that, only 56 lakh people earn more than 15 lakhs per annum. These 56 lakh individuals, these are the engine of India's entrepreneurial and services economy. They are the only ones effectively paying direct income tax. Now with the new exemption structure, those earning up to 12.5 lakhs annually will pay zero tax. Let's be clear, income tax is leviable only on 56 lakh people out of 140 crore population. Yet, we have a massive income tax department with supernormal, snooping, police-like powers and unchecked discretion operating under the pretense of enforcement. What is the purpose of this? The 56 lakh people at least have a graded tax system, but for the rest of India, Vishwakarma's India, there is no relief. For the 139 crore people in Vishwakarma's India, GST is the great equalizer, but in the most regressive way possible. In financial year 23-24, the Government of India collected 20 lakh crores in GST, which comes to about 15,000 rupees per person. So a billionaire and a daily wage earner both pay GST on food, on transport and essential commodities. The government has done nothing to alleviate this burden. There is no discussion on reducing indirect taxes on essential commodities, no roadmap to ensure fairer wealth distribution. All social sector spending has actually seen contractions. Let me give you a few examples. The finance bill mentions an health and education cess of 4% on income tax. No problem. Everyone's happy to pay this if it goes in the right way. You're taking our money, fine. The Kothari Commission in 1966 had said that 6% of India's GDP must be spent on education. Successive national education policies, including NEP 2020, insisted 6% of GDP must be spent on education. What are we spending today? Around 4.5%. What is China spending? 6.2%. This government's own national health policy of 2017 said that public health must account for 2.5% of GDP. What is this government spending today in the last budget? 1.94%. We must be the only country with a declining spending in health. The last few years, we have come down from 2% to 1.94%. So, Madam Finance Minister, wherever you are, I hope you're listening to me. Taxpayers don't mind paying extra cess for health and education, but at least spend it. Give the country what it deserves. Food subsidies have been slashed even as inflation has bitten into rural households. Between January and December of 2024, rural inflation was 5.4%, a full 100 basis points higher than urban inflation, mainly driven by higher food prices. Manrega is still underfunded. Last year's allocation was 86,000 crores. This year's allocation is also 86,000 crores, even though there's higher demand. If you pay West Bengal its 7,000 crores, which it is due, then you are even decrease the outlay even more. This time you guillotined the food and public distribution demand for grants. There was no discussion. Yet there are certain points that everyone needs to know. This country has a National Food Security Act in 2013, which mandates that 75% of urban households and 50% of urban households must have coverage. 75% of rural and urban must have coverage. Today, 81 crore people are getting 5 kg of free rations per month by this government. This is dependent on the 2011 census. Now, the government on affidavit told the Supreme Court that we haven't had a census since 2011. We don't even know when the next census is going to be. So the government says, well, how are you going to revise the numbers? There are many poor people who are not getting rations. The new number is an extra 13 crore must be given rations. Government says, we don't know. We don't have a census. So Supreme Court says, what do you have? We have an unorganized migrant portal, the e-Shram portal. According to the e-Shram portal, 8 crore new people must be given rations. The government is steadfastly refusing to give this 8 crore people rations. Please note, these people are paying GST. They are paying GST. You're raising 20 lakh crores based on these people, yet you're not giving them 8 crores people rations per month according to the Food Security Act. Now, this kind of iniquity, I'm not comfortable with it. We certainly don't want this on our conscience. Certainly not. Now what we're talking about is that when you go to you keep saying democracy, democracy, democracy. The Honorable Prime Minister is talking to podcasts all over the world talking about freedom to criticize and democracy and democratic processes. We welcome it. But for a democracy to function, it is vital that its electoral processes be above board and above question. The legislative department in the law ministry is the nodal department which controls all spending for elections, for polls, for appointment for the poll members. The Honorable Finance Minister this year allocated 300 crores for voter ID cards, allocated 600 crores for election expenses, allocated 19 crores for EVM machines. But here we have an election commission that is refusing to give 100% VVPAT paper trails. It is refusing to make 17C forms public. It is refusing to give us new additions and deletions to the voter list. It is refusing to explain how duplicate epic cards are being issued in Murshidabad and in Gujarat. So spend taxpayers' money, but use it in the right way. We need some answers. Now let us examine the myth and the reality of this government's growth story. The Honorable Finance Minister claimed that India will grow at 6.5% next year. This forecast, by the way, is down from 9.2% predicted in 23-24. Just before he became RBI governor, former Revenue Secretary Sanjay Malhotra in December warned government tax officials that they should not kill the proverbial golden goose with their demands. Net foreign inflows fell to 1.2 billion between April and December, down from 7.8 billion. Private investment is weak. Manufacturing is stagnating at 17% of GDP. Rural unemployment is 9%. Fiscal deficit has come down to 4.4%. Agreed. But that's not happened because of revenue growth. That's happened because you've cut essential spending to the poor. This is economic mismanagement, not fiscal prudence. The government's obsession with corporate incentives has only favored big businessmen, where small businesses and laborers have got hurt. You slashed corporate income tax in 2019 from 30% to 22%. Has private investment picked up? No. So who have these tax cuts benefited? Let me look at just one example. Let's not forget that all tax rules are written for Vishwakarma's India, not for Kuber's India, not for favorite businessmen. When it comes to crony capitalists, there are special rules. Please listen. In 2016, there was a rule that there can be no SEZ which has only a power plant. No power plant, only SEZ. But for a very special friend, Mr. A, this was done in Godda, Jharkhand. Mr. A received not only billions in benefits during the capex phase, but receives an ongoing benefit on no import duty for importing coal, no coal cess, no domestic supply obligation. Savings of clean energy cess were 320 crores per annum, custom tax and GST benefits were another 2,000 crores. Now that things with Bangladesh have soured, the government has said you can sell power domestically, but have you recovered the back interest and the taxes which were meant for the SEZs? Plant was built by a Chinese contractor with Chinese equipment, customs duty free, GST free, tax free, not using Jharkhand coal, not giving Jharkhand power, not paying clean energy cess, and currently employing less than 1,000 people. For some people, rules, laws, acts mean nothing. गरीब लहरों पे पहरे बिठाए जाते हो, समंदरों की तलाशी कोई नहीं लेता. Stock market investors, corporates, small business owners have all become victims of the worst kind of tax terrorism. According to the last budget receipt of July 24, total income tax under dispute was 10.5 lakh crores. This figure has doubled from 5 lakh crores in 2015 to 10.5 lakh crores now in 23. So much for the promise of eliminating tax terrorism. When you're looking at the CBDT's Action Plan 24-25, it gives us data on pending appeals. It's telling us every year there are more pending appeals than appeals which are being disposed of. So what kind of dispute resolution are we managing? It is estimated that there are 6 lakh pending appeals today. The Indian IT tax department has followed an adversarial approach. It unnecessarily pursues all appeals at all levels, regardless of outcome. And all your department officials, there is absolutely no penalty on pursuing frivolous regulation. So kahin bhi kuch bhi case laga do. There's bad drafting of tax laws, different interpretations. High courts are providing divergent opinions. There's confusion. The judiciary simply cannot handle this mountain of pending appeals. More than 17.5 lakh Indians have acquired foreign citizenship of another country in the past decade. An estimated $21,300 millionaires left India in the past 3 years alone. तुमसे दूर जाने की ख्वाहिश नहीं, पर तुम्हारी शक के डर से बहुत डर लगता है. तुमसे दूर जाने की ख्वाहिश नहीं, पर तुम्हारी शक की नजर से बहुत डर लगता है. This is what people are telling this government. GST is a nightmare. You are having to wade through 100 different tax rates, including cesses. Multiple rates, ensuing confusion has facilitated an alarming GST evasion of 2 lakh crores, almost double the 1 lakh crore evasion that was there in fiscal year 2023. 18,000 fraudulent entries have been uncovered. Many more are likely. Senator Barry Goldwater, the Republican senator in the United States, famously said that the Income Tax Act has created more criminals than any other act of government. This is really proving true in India's case. Honorable Chairperson, the government's draconian taxation policies have turned our stock market into a breeding ground for tax uncertainty. Let's examine the facts. They're mind-boggling. 2004, capital gains tax eliminated, replaced by a 0.1% securities transaction tax. 2018, BJP government reintroducing 10% long-term capital gains tax. 2024, this long-term capital gains hiked to 12.5%. Short-term capital gains increased from 10% to 15% in 2018 to 20% in 2025. Securities transaction tax hiked by 60% in 2024. Corporate dividends, once taxed at flat 15%, are now taxed at slab rates with TDS. The government and the SEBI have together destroyed wealth creation in the stock market, both domestic and foreign. When you have Europe, when you have the US, you have Singapore, who are aggressively attracting investors, we are driving them away with policy arrogance and excessive taxation. Also, the new Income Tax Amendment Act contains something rather alarming in the fine print. Is the government trying to bring back electoral bonds in another shape or form? The bonds were declared unconstitutional in February 24 by the Supreme Court. And yet, in the new Income Tax Bill 25, Schedule 8, provisions relating to the electoral bonds are mentioned. Is this legislative oversight? In which case, very shoddy work on your part. And if it's not oversight, then it shows that you're keeping the road open so some kind of back entry to your favorite Hafta collection system. This is very clear. Electoral bond data shows that companies with negative profits donated 434 crores to the BJP. 41 companies under investigation donated 2,500 crores to the BJP. 30 companies facing investigation donated 335 crores. Madam Finance Minister, the CBDT in your hand is an engine to spur India's growth through transparent and progressive taxation. Please do not turn it into another rogue agency like the ED and the CBI, who have essentially become professional collection agents for this government. 193 cases pursued by the ED, 2 convictions. 2 convictions. 97% of ED cases are against opposition politicians. 23 of 25 switched to BJP, cases were dropped. We are now truly in an Orwellian state. The finance bill doesn't merely focus on taxation. It gives the government sweeping powers of surveillance under the guise of preventing tax evasion. The government now seeks the right to monitor emails, see social media accounts, private messages. The finance ministry can share this data with the enforcement directorate, with the IT department, and all other agencies. If 97% of this country is tax exempt, then who will the tax authority scrutinize? The poor 3% who are actually paying taxes, who are the hardworking individuals, who are propping up the service sector. Instead of using Pegasus secretly, the government is now openly spying in the name of suspicion. The new income tax law enables the sharing of information across 10 government agencies. Is this the government's idea of respecting tax-paying citizens who are funding its coffers? I've got time, madam, 2 minutes. While I always try and stick to the narrow confines of a topical debate, I am now going to take a cue from the Honourable Prime Minister, who so effectively managed to speak about Vasudeva Kutumbakam when asked a pointed question by the US media about crony capitalists and their accountability to the law. So I too am digressing to speak on an issue which has immense controversy and intrigue attached. The story about a bundles of currency notes discovered in the outhouse of a judge of the Delhi High Court. Now, the veracity of the incident is still being ascertained, but the Godi media has gone to town debating whether the appointment of judges and how the government of the day must have a preponderant say in the appointment process. We saw the Sushant Singh Rajput case suicide and how an innocent woman was vilified by the Godi media, name dragged through the mud. Same thing happened in my case. Now you see this media are trying to mahol banao. They're trying to toe the government line to suborn the higher judiciary. Someone who cannot be named in this house, who presides over a neighbouring chamber, has already added his 2 cents and said how he thinks that the government should do away with the collegium system. Mark my words, just like the Election Commission has been emasculated by the government takeover of its appointments process, this brouhaha and media plans are the beginning of an effort to bring back something like the NGAC with complete government control and do away with the collegium system. No amount of money apportioned to the judiciary will be of any avail unless its independent character is zealously guarded. This is something that we in this House must be allowed to debate. Coming back to the finance bill, it is nothing but a testament to this government's flawed economic vision. I oppose this bill because it taxes the wealth creators, ignores, I've got 10 seconds, madam, ignores the poor and empowers the government with unchecked powers of intrusion. India deserves better. I end by quoting George Orwell in 1984. Every record has been destroyed or falsified, every book rewritten, every picture has been repainted, every statue and street building has been renamed, every date has been altered. And the process is continuing day by day and minute by minute. History has stopped. Nothing exists except an endless present.
रूल है.
Thank you very much, madam.
पॉइंट ऑफ ऑर्डर है. स्पीकर का डायरेक्शन 115 वो ये कहता है कि कोई भी माननीय सदस्य यदि कोई आरोप लगाते हैं, एक बड़ा आरोप उन्होंने ईडी और सीबीआई पर लगाया कि वो सरकार की तरफ से जो है पैसा कलेक्ट करते हैं. मेरा आग्रह होगा कि उनको ऑथेंटिकेट करने के लिए कहिए कि ईडी और सीबीआई ने कौन सा टैक्स कलेक्ट गवर्नमेंट के लिए किया, किन लोगों को परेशान किया. यदि नहीं करते हैं तो एक्सपंज करिए और नहीं तो प्रिविलेज चलाइए.